Dear sisters, let us get closer to Allah. Dear sisters, let us learn of Rasulullah. Dear sisters, let's make the future bright. Dear sisters, mothers, daughters and wives. Dear sisters, let us get closer to Allah.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على الرسول الصادق الأمين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. My dear sisters in Islam, welcome and welcome back to our program, Dear Sisters. It's a great honor and a great pleasure to be with you this afternoon. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it an afternoon of His remembrance, an afternoon of seeking His forgiveness, an afternoon of getting reminded and educated about our beautiful deen al-Islam. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, it's a great pleasure to be back with you after the beautiful month of Ramadan. Month, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, that I know that Huda TV was very influential in many people's lives, Alhamdulillah, when it came to them understanding the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and understanding the way of Islam. Alhamdulillah, it's a pleasure and a great blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it doesn't stop with Ramadan. We come back this afternoon to be talking more about the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and hopefully not only talking. We talk for an hour, but we hope to implement for a week. And then we come back next week, inshallah, and we talk for another hour. And then we implement for a week, and hopefully all the things that we learn, we try to implement them as much as we can in our lives. And I'm really honored to be joined again in the studio by our dear guest, Sheikh Ibrahim Zidan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you doing this afternoon? How was Ramadan?
Wallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept with the nothing that we did.
Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Jazakallah khair. My dear sisters, just to remind you, inshallah, feel free to give us a call at any time, beginning right now on our phone lines at 002-0238-555, 248 or 249. Again, the number is 002-0238-555, 248 or 249. Give us a call at any time, inshallah, share with us your thoughts, and ask us any questions related to Muslim women, to relationships in general. This is your general discussion show. Inshallah, we can call in and ask us any questions that you have on your mind. So we'll be waiting for your phone calls, inshallah. Sheikh Ibrahim, Alhamdulillah, I feel that this Ramadan was a really excellent Ramadan for many people. From the feedback that I received, for many people they said this is the best Ramadan that they ever had. But how about after Ramadan?
Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah. This is such a very important question, because it's the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives the believers these times in which they gain so much rewards. In the month of Ramadan, in the day of Jum'ah throughout the week, to go for Hajj and Umrah. So seasons of great deeds and virtues and so on. But what really matters is, are we steadfast on the deen of Islam throughout our whole entire life or not? And this is what is meant. So this is something that like the provisions given for someone that is a traveler to make it easy for their path. Not that this is it. We're not Muslims only in Ramadan or during Hajj or whatever. We are Muslims at all times, in state of submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala till the moment of death. And the real test comes right after Ramadan, when a person would find in himself the high iman and the high zeal to do good deeds, it's fainting away. And this is something that the Prophet ﷺ said a hadith in it, لِكُلِّ أَمْرٍ شِرَّةٍ وَلِكُلِّ شِرَّةٍ فَتْرَةٍ, that any matter has its peak, and then after that it goes down and it faints away. This is the natural way of the human beings. But then the Prophet ﷺ said, مَنْ كَانَتْ فَتْرَةُ إِلَى سُنَّتِي فَقَدْ. Whoever his down time, if it's correct to say that, is on my sunnah, then he is the guided one. So when we are guided and helped, mashallah, everybody is good. But what is your state when you are in your downtime? When you are downtime, when you don't feel basically like doing good deeds? Are we still following the way of the Prophet ﷺ or not? This is the key question.
So basically our low point should at least be doing the fara'id in a really good manner.
And doing the fara'id means that we do the obligations and we stay away from what is haram. And when it comes to the good deeds that we have the habit of doing, when we have this slow time and the feeling of not wanting to do much, we need to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and having the fear in our hearts, what is happening to me? It's a good thing, it's a healthy thing. then a person would turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and make dua. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make me love matters of iman. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide me to do good deeds. You would find that eventually the person will regain again. And keep on with this till Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy,
inshallah ta'ala. The shaitan, he's back. And I think, subhanAllah, when someone is chained for an entire month, and he's trying to fight off these chains, and all of a sudden the chains are let go, then they come back in full force. They don't just come back in a regular way. And subhanAllah, I've heard of a lot of stories of families getting in fights on the day of Eid, the morning of Eid. And I think this is something that we should be talking about. SubhanAllah, the shaitan comes on the first day of Eid and he tries to mess up our happiness. He knows that this is a day of happiness for the Muslim Ummah. He tries to mess it up. But the problem is that the day of Eid has passed, alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Whether you had a fight with your family or you didn't. But the question is what happens after that. A lot of families right now are on the verge of divorce. Some brothers have divorced their wife on the day of Eid, because of some small silly argument that happened between them. What is your advice to the Muslim family as we begin really a new year after Ramadan?
It's to be aware of the ways of shaitan, basically. There's an enemy that never sleeps, never get tired, and as you said it in a very nice way, he was chained, the fiercest among them were chained for a month.
Yes.
Now they're coming back with all their weapons and means. And the way to fight this is with iman, with turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with steadfastness. And one important meaning that we need to ponder over, if we have been asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the month of Ramadan to make us among those who are freed from the hellfire. And as we know, every night in Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala free many of His slaves from the hellfire.
Yes.
If this was something that we asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a lot in the month of Ramadan, and we're having the good expectations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if Allah freed you from being enslaved to your own sins and your own desires, and a person is now, for example, among the people of Jannah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best who, how can a person then after that chooses to be enslaved and to be imprisoned in one's desires and sins again after you've been freed? So Ramadan is the occasion where we are freed, we free our souls from being enslaved into these desires and to these sins and so on.
And subhanAllah, also during the month of Ramadan, we were able to stay away from the halal many times, okay, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that should give us more power to stay away from the haram.
And no excuse anymore. We prove to ourselves that there is no excuse for sins whatsoever.
Yes.
If a person can be patient when it comes to necessities of life for a whole entire month, then what is the excuse when it comes to evil acts?
It reminds me of a runner. When runners are training, they don't just run with their own weight. They put extra weight on their body. They put weight on their ankles, and they carry weight on their back. So why? So that when they run in the training, when they let go of that, then they're able to run faster.
Right,
so subhanAllah, the same thing with Ramadan. We put on extra weight on ourselves. We put on extra things that we did for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, leaving food, leaving drink, leaving sexual desires. I mean, how can a person who subhanAllah left sexual desires and watching haram things on the internet during the month of Ramadan so that he can complete this fast, return back to it after the month of Ramadan?
And that reminds us of how Yusuf alayhi salam, he chose to be imprisoned than to do something that fits his desire, which is to be with the woman of Al-Aziz. He chose to be imprisoned. And this is such an important meaning in our life. That, oh my Rabb, prison is more beloved to me than what they are calling me to do, which is something that a human being would like to do. But since it's a sin, he chose to be in prison. So are we having this attitude, and this is something that is in our hearts, that we are willing, even if we go to prison, right? But we won't disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
SubhanAllah, that reminds me, you gave a male example, mashallah, which is great. Yusuf alayhi salam is an example for all of us, men and women. Specifically about sisters though, when we think about it, we see a lot of sisters, they were wearing correct hijab during the month of Ramadan. Whether it's hijab, whether it's niqab, they're wearing, they call it the Ramadan attire. Okay, and they keep it, this is my jilbab for the month of Ramadan. But then what happens to it after the month of Ramadan? It stays in the closet.
SubhanAllah. And this is definitely, it's a bad sign. It's a good thing that they did that in Ramadan, and it's something that people need to be encouraged to do that, but we need to continue that way. One of the signs of acceptance of the deed, because that's what really matters, is that the person is helped and guided to be steadfast on the same acts that a person used to do in the month of Ramadan. Ali radiallahu anhu used to go out in the last night of Ramadan and he would say, Ya layta shi'ri, man al-makhbulu fanuhanni, wa man al-mahrumu fanu'azzi. Ya layta shi'ri, it's an Arabic expression that means, I wish I can get to know who is the one that is accepted so that we can congratulate him, and who is the deprived one so that we would condolence him or her. So they were so much concerned about the acceptance of the deed. That's why months after the month of Ramadan, they would make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept their deeds.
SubhanAllah.
So how can a person wanting the deeds to be accepted, because the deeds were tough deeds, right? You don't want it to be wasted. So how can we be in that attitude and subjecting ourselves for the dua to be accepted when a person doing the opposite of what the acceptance of the deed is calling us to do? And the matter is so easy, subhanAllah. I mean, when we really think, what is the deen? What is the obligations? It's something that is very simple. To pray 5 times a day, how many minutes does it take throughout the day?
We're looking at a maximum of, 45 minutes?
Right.
Maximum.
Right, and it's nothing. Right? And then when it comes, for example, for the attire for the sisters, for example, what's the difficult thing of this? Is it the say of so and so, how people look at us? Maybe if you're in an environment where people might mock you or something, what is the big deal of that? When at the end of the day, they would not even think about you. And plus, it's the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we seek that brings the happiness in this life and in the hereafter. So when we really ponder over the obligations and the things that are haram for us, it's something that is physically, it's a very simple task.
I want to talk to you about something that I call the post-Ramadan depression syndrome. But let me just remind our dear sisters with our Facebook account, facebook.com/Dear Sisters Huda TV. Facebook.com/Dear Sisters Huda TV. Inshallah, send us your questions and your comments on that Facebook page. Join us for the latest news and latest updates, inshallah. Also, let me remind you of our phone numbers. Give us a call, inshallah, at 002-0238-555, 248 or 249. At any time, inshallah, ask us your questions, anything related to Muslim women or to relationships in general. I had a lot of brothers and sisters tell me on Facebook that they are facing what I call the post-Ramadan depression syndrome, where we feel that subhanAllah, Ramadan is over. You know, I want Ramadan back, and I want these great nights and the great feelings. What are your thoughts about this syndrome?
It's a good feeling, and it's a good sign that a person would want that. And it's a beautiful thing when you see the masajid full of people, and people are close to each other, they eat together. Definitely this is something that we would wish that it's throughout the whole year. But at the same time, the deen of Islam, it's something that deals with the nature of the human being and the reality, not just in some ideal world.
Yes.
So coming back to the reality of things, it is meant that we would find ourselves in that low time. Right? It's meant to be this way. So that we are tested. Are we slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, worshipping Him when it feels good or at all times? So even if you don't feel as you used to feel in the month of Ramadan, it's okay, it's meant to be this way. Still, you need to make your prayer. Still, you need to stay away from sins. And again, as we said, you make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He brings these feelings again. Remember Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anh, who used to, whenever he has this downtime, right, he would so much regret that the last time that he was in high zeal of things, he was not as good as he wanted to be. Because this is what is the last thing in his, basically, the good times and so on. And then that would make him eventually go back to what he used to do.
Jazakallah khair, barakallah feek. Sister Sabreen from the UK, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
How's it going, sister?
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Go ahead.
My question is about hijab, which is, I normally wear abaya and loose dresses, but I'm not just speaking with abaya, sometimes loose dresses, alhamdulillah. So one of my sisters in the morning.
The phone line is, the voice is cutting off just a bit.
Yeah. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you better. Go ahead.
Okay. One of the sisters was commenting that she said, the hijab should be like one piece, which is from the top to bottom, like a jilbab. But what I'm wearing is like a abaya with a long scarf, which is covering my chest area properly. And even when I'm wearing dresses, I'm wearing like that as well. is it wrong? I want proper.
So basically what you're saying is the two pieces that she's referring to, that there are two pieces, is that you're saying the scarf and the abaya. That's what you're considering as two pieces. What she's saying is that everything from top to bottom should be one piece.
One piece.
Right? Okay, Jazakallah khair. We'll answer you inshallah. Barakallah feek. Your thoughts about that?
Now, the jilbab, some of the ulama, they said that it's mandatory. But having two pieces, if it's done properly, there's no harm. The point is that many women, they do not know that the issue of the khimar has to be in a certain way, that the shoulders should not be shaped. See, for example, some of the women, they wear the abaya, and then their scarf is tucked in.
Short, yeah, it's tucked in.
Right? So it's not permissible for her.
That's a style in some of the countries.
Right. It is not permissible for the shoulders to be shaped, for the woman to look like this. It has to look like this.
Okay.
So that's why the jilbab from head to toe, right, it makes the woman away from being shaped. But if the khimar is long enough, right, that
when you say the khimar, you're talking about the scarf.
the scarf, yes.
Okay.
If it's long enough and wide, and underneath it the abaya is also wide and doesn't shape the body, it would serve the same thing, right? So that the shape is look like this. It's not like the shoulders is being shown. So that definitely no harm, no problem whatsoever. But maybe the problem is that the scarf is short.
Yeah.
Or tucked in or something like this.
Okay. Thank you so much, sister. That was a beautiful question. She did mention in her specific case, though, that the scarf goes under to her chest.
Right.
So under her chest. So
right. And it should just go a bit longer than that, because of sometimes the arm is being shown with some things that are adornments or things like this. So in the cases of the khimar, it should be a little bit longer, so that it covers properly, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. I heard a beautiful saying by someone that said, whoever worships Ramadan, let him know that Ramadan is a month that passes by.
Yeah.
And whoever worships the Lord of Ramadan, or worships Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, let him know that Allah is ever living and He never dies.
Right. It's true. And this is, it might not be said by one's tongue, but sometimes our actions will act like this. So, and the reason why is some people, they worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only in the month of Ramadan, as if Ramadan is, wal'iyadhu billah, some form of an idol.
Yes.
Right? And then after the month of Ramadan, that's it. There is no more worship.
And another saying that I heard is that the Lord of Ramadan is the Lord of the other 11 months of the year.
That's correct. And that's why when the month of Ramadan, a person is being helped to do good deeds, it's like a weaning state for the soul. You are being weaned now. So now we can be independent when it comes to doing the acts of worship. You don't need the help anymore because you've done it. So it's very dangerous time, this time after Ramadan, because if a person goes back to the old habits, now you have to work harder again to regain the iman and so on.
Barakallah feek. Jazakallah khair. Sister Bella from Egypt. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. I've got a question, please.
Go ahead.
Yes, my question was about, it's always clear in ethics what is it that we need to do, but then I can't find the exact dalil from Sharia and Sunnah regarding the fact that we should not judge people, and we should not be speaking about people that they probably disobey God in a different way than we do, but then we disobey too. So, for example, if someone talking about someone from a different sect or from a different level of values, and they keep on calling them names, even if they're from a different religion, can you, Sheikh, please confirm that this is not halal, this is haram, and if you can give us the dalil to that?
Subhanallah, let me, inshallah, before the Sheikh answers, let me tell you a beautiful statement that I heard. I heard a statement that says that, subhanallah, Umar ibn Khattab, radiallahu anhu, was one day wanted to kill the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And today he's buried next to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we should never judge people too quickly. Sheikh Ibrahim, your thoughts?
It's a very important question, and to give it a very good introduction, Islam brings all that is good. The rulings in Sharia are supposed to bring all that is good and push away all that is evil. So if some of the rulings that talks about others, for example, it's in a way to protect the deen of the people, to protect the people, and so on. For example, if you know a good person, that a thief, for example, is coming close to him, and he is becoming friends with him.
Yes.
And you know for sure that this guy, he always tricks people and take their money, and then it is your responsibility that you would go to that Muslim and tell him, be careful. This person does this and this and this. You're talking about that person, but it brings benefit, right? But then the person that would warn, he has to be sincerely doing that for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, not to step over someone, right? And at the same time, having the sincere advice and sincerity in the heart towards even the sinner. And it's not that a person is free from sin, so he would warn others. So in that context, if there is someone that is harmful to the ummah, spreading evil,
Yes.
and people are being deceived by him, right? This is something that people need to know and be aware
Especially
of.
if it's something that's said publicly.
Right.
Or if it's done
But
publicly.
is it our job as individuals, the normal masses of the Muslims,
Yes.
to do that? Of course not.
Yeah, I
This
think
is
that's
something-
what the sister is
Right,
referring to.
right.
She's saying that, and then she's also talking about people who are general sinners.
Right.
But when she did say the word sects, though, I think that we're talking about a different aspect now. Because to be honest, I'm not going to be talking good about someone who curses the Sahaba of the Prophet ﷺ, or the mother of the believers, Aisha radiallahu anha.
Right. And the Prophet ﷺ said that the ummah split. And this is the fact of life, that the ummah split into 73 sects, all in the hellfire except one. And the Prophet ﷺ gave the criteria that what me and my companions are on today. But again, it's the job of the people of knowledge. When it comes, different sects, it's obvious, it's clear.
Yes.
But when it comes to, people, sometimes they judge people by just a word of mouth. They cut and paste what people say, and their goal in life is to talk about others and talk about people on the sunnah and so on. So we have to be careful. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the way of the Quran is the way that guides us. And this is to answer her question, even among people from other faiths. How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke about people from different faiths. And this is to bring them actually to the truth and to guide us to the truth.
Yes.
It's a very important subject that needs some details, but
Yes.
again, anything
I think we can summarize it by saying when it comes to talking about other religions or other deviant sects, that's one thing. And when it comes to talking about people who are general sinners,
Right.
because I guess what she's saying is we have our own sins too.
Right.
So when it comes to general sins, maybe we shouldn't be talking about it unless it's something that's happening publicly by a public figure.
Right.
But of course, the idea of
And
different
there has to be a benefit of why a person is saying this.
exactly.
No, there has to be a benefit.
Exactly. And subhanAllah, I'm all for not mentioning names. Even some Islamic preachers and some sheikhs in their lectures, they mention like an actor or an actress or a singer by name. And they say, for example, you love such and such singer, you're going to be with them on the Day of Judgment. So you're going to be with them in the hellfire. And subhanAllah, even this past Ramadan, there was a very famous actress who totally, she had worn her hijab a while ago, but this past Ramadan she totally left acting because she knew that there's no way that she can make that balance, that she still would be committing haram, even though she's wearing hijab, she's still acting and she's getting involved in many haram things. So she totally left it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if a person was talking bad about her before, especially publicly on television or something like that, now alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, she has repented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we know of opposite examples. I think here in Egypt we know of a person who used to be Hafiz of the Quran, who used to be an Islamic preacher, who is now something totally different, and he's attacking Islam in the media and attacking Muslims. So the basic idea, we should not judge people, but if we're talking about specific things, as you said, to warn people against like a deviant sect or other religions who are trying to preach, in the Muslim lands or something like that, or if I'm talking to someone about Buddhism, so that because he's thinking of becoming a Buddhist, of course I'm going to talk bad about it. I'm telling him why you're worshipping, these idols.
You see how the Quran, when it talked about the Jews and the Christians, in some verses, قُلْ يَا أَهْلَ الْكِتَابِ, O people of the book.
Yes.
This is in the context of calling them. We're not saying that they're disbelievers and that's it.
Yes.
In other verses, when warning against them, you would find the words are being mentioned. So we have to be aware of the context of how we say things now.
Jazakallah khair. Sister Sarah from Saudi Arabia, Assalamu alaikum. I apologize for keeping you on the line for too long. Go ahead.
No problem. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
My question is regarding marriage. I just got married 2 years ago.
MashaAllah.
And thank you. And I have a baby who's going to turn a year old next year.
Congratulations, MashaAllah.
Thank you. Alhamdulillah. Now, my problem is that my husband, he's a good man, and he takes care of all my needs. He provides me with everything. But I've been living in a joint family, and I've had many problems with my in-laws because they like to control every aspect of our lives.
Do you live together? You live together in the same apartment?
Yeah, in the same apartment. And my brother-in-law and his wife live there as well.
And like with my husband, he's a good person. He listens to everything, but when it comes to his family, although he will accept that they are wrong, he says he can't move out and he can't separate. And maybe in the far future, sometime, when our children are older and stuff, we might do that, but not right now.
Well, is he saying that? Why is he saying that? Is it for financial reasons, or is it maybe because your mother-in-law is helping you out with the children, or is it kind of an emotional feeling?
He says that it's for financial reasons, although I feel that even if he was financially strong, he would not have moved out. And the other thing is his parents don't want him to move out. They've been telling him that if you go, we'll die or we'll never forgive you, and we don't want you to move out.
Okay, inshallah. Jazakallah khairan, we'll answer you with ta'ala. Sheikh Ibrahim, a tough choice for the husband in this case, but also a right of the sister to be living in independent
house. It's one of the continuous problems, and it's widespread. It's not the first, it's not the last, it's something that happens all the time. It's one of the things that even before people get married, it's usually said to the husband, make sure that you live separately. You have your wife alone, if you have the means, to live alone, so that your problems are being kept in the house, so that it's not being shared outside, because it causes more problem. Plus it can cause even severing the ties of the kinship and so on. Sever the ties between the mother-in-law, for example, and the wife. Things like this. So definitely that's something that should be done. And the husband can do it in such a way, in a decent way towards his mother, in a way that she doesn't get upset, right? But for the sister, since she's the one that is concerned, be patient. Seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, definitely you have the right to have a separate place, and you should deal with it with great wisdom, especially if your husband is a good person and so on. Be nice to him, be nice to his family, but when there's something involves sins, then there's no compromise in this whatsoever. Meaning, the brother-in-law is present in the same place. I'm not sure how can people live together like this. He's a stranger to her. She has to wear the full hijab in front of him.
Yes.
So when they're living together, are they sharing the same kitchen, bathrooms, things like this. So this is something that has to be observed in the proper way. So if it's such a case like that, it has to be separated, even if people get upset. Right? And the husband should be aware of that. Maybe somebody can advise him. But if it's only him and his wife and the mother, for example, and things like this, then be patient till things change. Be extremely kind to them and seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And maybe somebody can advise the husband, things like that. Till Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala change the situation. But it's the right of the wife to have her own place.
Yes, and I think also at the same time, even though this is a tough situation, I would advise Sister Sarah to focus more, as much as she can, on the good than the bad part. Obviously there is a bad part to this, but you have a great treasure, sister, that you have a husband that you yourself are calling a good man. I believe when the sister actually says that her husband is good, that means that person is really good, mashallah. SubhanAllah, I know of people who are living by themselves with their husbands, but they're treating them the worst type of treatment. So obviously, as we said, it's her right, and I agree with you that should be our advice, that she should move out and become independent as soon as it's possible. But until then, let's not live in the emotional trauma. Let's focus more on the good and realize that you have a great blessing, and that the harm is there, but it's technically smaller than having a bad husband. Alhamdulillah. Let me take one more question before the break. A sister is asking, in Islam, can a man divorce his wife while she's pregnant?
The answer is, based on fiqh rules, yes. The only time where the man is not permissible for him to divorce his wife is whether she is in her menses, or when she's not in her menses, but they had a sexual relationship in that period of purity. So it has to be the proper divorce is when she is not in her menses, and they never had, since the last menses period, they never had sexual intercourse.
Okay, so let's put this in practical terms. Okay, a sister is 5 months pregnant. So since it's been maybe 5 months or 6 months since her last menses, with all probable cause, they probably had sexual relations during that time. So would it not be allowed for him to divorce her during that time?
If that's since the last menses, yes.
And if he does divorce her, would that divorce count, or would it be an invalid divorce?
There's differences of opinions. And if you ask me, the opinion that it counts is what is more authentic. Wallahu a'lam.
Even though it's wrong, he gets a sin for it, but it does count.
And he has to take her back if it's the first or the second one, and wait till the menses come or whatever, and then he can make divorce later. So it shows that the divorce in Islam is not a reaction of some moment of anger. It's something that has to be planned for, something that really a person, it's meant for the relationship, it's not working anymore. So if a
when
person
you're saying planned, you're not saying that they should plan to divorce someone.
Right.
You're saying it should be something that's thought out.
Right, and a person has to make the decision and make istikhara, maybe,
Yes.
not at the moment of, most of the divorces
Exactly.
happens, person angry, and he says the word of divorce and then regrets it and goes to the sheikh, what do I do, this and that, and that's definitely
The sheikh is the one that should be telling what do I do.
Right.
So,
Right.
alhamdulillah, jazakallah khair. We're going to take a short break, my dear sisters. When we come back, we'd love to take more of your questions. We'll talk about a few more issues related to Ramadan, inshallah, so please stay with us.
Sisters, let us get closer to Allah. Dear sisters, let us learn of Rasulullah.
Huda TV is proud to announce the launching of its first loyalty and rewarding program. Huda Fans Club aims at building a one-to-one relationship with our viewers. For an annual fee, club members varying from platinum, gold and silver card holders will be eligible to receive a great range of benefits, services. You will gain access to download versatile programs from educational, dawah programs and nasheed's clips. Also, your club membership card is a backstage studio pass created for those interested to explore behind-the-scene activities. You will enjoy priority when calling into live shows. Also, you can view samples of new programs in production before being aired worldwide. Take this opportunity to join us online and participate in our loyalty program on Huda TV. Huda Fans Club, where fans of Islamic media meet. Europe's forgotten heritage.
This is a sad reminder of the past history of the Muslims in the city. Nowadays, there are no Muslims anymore. These are the mosques that have remained. And it is really sad. Wait a second, this is Morocco. No, this is Tunisia, Algeria, North Africa, Egypt. No, this is all Europe, and this is all part of Spain. Islam spread first in Africa, and then from Africa, it came over to Europe, and then it did developing work in Europe. Now, we look the other way around nowadays. The compass was invented by the Muslims. Many important inventions came from the time of the Muslims on the Iberian Peninsula. Instead of people becoming less in battles, as we normally know, as we know in battles obviously people die, but no, what was happening? The Spaniards recognized and realized the superiority of the Muslims and the treatment that the Muslims gave to the Christians and the Jews in Spain at that time, that they happily accepted Islam, many of them. And not over the fountain, as we've seen it before in other places in Greece. Now, it has some Arabic on top, as well as it had some Arabic down where the tap used to be, or where the water was coming out.
Pack your bags, grab your passports, and join Dr. Steph Karis as he takes us through Europe and rediscovers Europe's forgotten heritage, only on Huda TV.
Dear sisters, let us get closer to Allah. Dear sisters, let us learn of Rasulullah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back, my dear sisters, to your program, Dear Sisters. Feel free, inshallah, in the second segment to give us a call at 002-0238-555-248 or 249. What's happening after Ramadan? Is everyone sleeping, or what's the case? We used to get a lot of phone calls in Ramadan, and inshallah we want to continue to, bi'idhnillah ta'ala, answer your questions after the month of Ramadan, so feel free to give us a call, inshallah, on our phone lines. Also, join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Dear Sisters Huda TV, Dear Sisters Huda TV. Sheikh Ibrahim, let's go back to the issue of post-Ramadan. In the United States, the best kind of job that you can have is a full-time job. And if you can't find a full-time job with benefits, healthcare benefits, things like that, then you look to be a contractor. So since you're going to get the same amount of money that you're getting, maybe you won't get the benefits. You have to pay your own Social Security and taxes, and I mean, you do have to pay your taxes anyway, but you pay your own full Social Security and things like that. And then if you can't get that, then you look for a part-time job. And then maybe you look for another part-time job so that you can, make them go together. And if you can't even get that, then you look to be a seasonal worker. A person who works only specifically in a certain season. For example, you work, during the time of Christmas or during the time of Thanksgiving, when the stores need more people so that they can accommodate the needs of the people. But are we doing the same thing when it comes to the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Are we becoming seasonal workers, only working during the month of Ramadan? Why is it that in our everyday lives, none of us would be satisfied with a seasonal job, but we're being satisfied with being seasonal workers when it comes to our deen?
Even if some would be satisfied with the seasonal work, a person might do seasonal work and he's doesn't need to work the rest of the year, right? It doesn't work like that in the deen of Islam, because we're created to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Put it this way, we need to keep on moving and earning every day in our life. Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, I remember a quote from him, it's very nice. He said, in the path of Allah, every day we're supposed to be steadfast on the path of Allah.
Yes.
If you have the means to run like as a sprint, for example, then do that. If you can't, then jog. If you can, then walk. If you cannot do that, crawl. But never go back.
SubhanAllah.
If you stop, that means you're going back.
Yeah.
So you have to be going forward, even if it's in short pace. It doesn't mean that you, instead of praying 5 fard prayers, you pray 2. No, of course, 2 is like 0, is like nothing. So the minimum requirement that keeps you at least moving is the obligations and stay away from sins. What gives the speed are the good deeds.
Yes.
Right? So this is the least motion in our life in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are the obligations. So we cannot be seasonal. Seasonal in matters of extra good deeds, mashallah, no problem.
Yes.
And we will keep the same basics of it. Like if a person used to pray the Taraweeh and the night prayer, doesn't mean that after Ramadan we quit the night prayer. The Prophet ﷺ said to Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma, don't be like so and so. He used to pray at night and then he stopped. So the same thing applies for those who stop praying the night prayer after Ramadan. After Ramadan, keep on praying the night prayer. Doesn't have to be as long as it was in the month of Ramadan, but the original act is still there, even if it's 2 rak'ah every night.
At least keep 2 rak'ahs. Even 2 rak'ahs with very short surahs.
You give charity in the month of Ramadan, give charity if you can every day, even if it's a penny every day.
Yes.
But it's the action that you would do every day. Plus, of course, the obligations and so on.
Jazakallah khair. Sister Naima from Saudi Arabia. Assalamu alaikum. Yes, sister, go ahead.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I'm a Kenyan working here in the States.
I'm sorry, repeat that first part again.
I'm a Kenyan.
Yeah, you're on. Go ahead.
I'm saying I'm a citizen from Kenya.
Okay.
I'm here in KSA. I'm working here in KSA. So I have a question.
Go ahead.
I want to go for Hajj, inshallah. Yeah, so I was asking, is it permissible for me to go with my boss in Hawaii?
To go with who?
My boss, my employer.
Your employer. Okay. Barakallah feek. Jazakallah khair.
I'm married but my husband is in Kenya. So can I go without a mahadam?
Okay, inshallah, we'll answer you. Barakallah feek.
Shukran.
Thank you. She lives in Saudi Arabia, and her husband is not with her, but she's wondering if she could go with her boss at work, with her employer, for Hajj.
And she's living in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah.
And it will be a traveling distance. If it's a traveling distance to Mecca, then the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that a woman believing in Allah and the last day, she should not travel unless she has a mahram. Definitely those who love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's Hajj, and she's there, and she wants to do the act of Hajj. But the one that ordered us to go for Hajj, he's the one that made it in such a way for the women. So the issue of having a secure traveling with other women and so on, although some of the ulama, they said it's permissible, but the other opinion that says if there's no mahram, then she should not travel whatsoever, and whoever leaves something for the sake of Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will replace it by something better. So even if you didn't make Hajj before, and it's not an obligation on you, Allah, if the concern is the rewards in the hereafter, don't worry. Because you're not leaving it because you're lazy or you don't want to. You have all the means, but there's no mahram. So you leave it for that sake, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will replace it by something better. You will get your rewards inshallah ta'ala in full, but never do it without a mahram. Especially at all times. And Hajj, women that are in need of the mahram, right? And any traveling. And take the means. If the husband is not there, if you have the means to bring him, if you have a son that is old enough, things like this, if that's not easy, seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but my advice is never to go.
Okay, speaking of that, we know that making Hajj should be for those who are able to. Is part of being able to a mahram?
Yes.
For example, can that word mahram be inserted in there? So a sister who lives in another country, we'll go back to the sister in just a moment, but a sister who lives in another country, she has the financial means, she has the health means, everything, but she doesn't have a mahram.
No.
So she's exempt from that because it's for those who are able to. So part of being able to for a sister would be the mahram.
This is exactly what is being said in the books of fiqh. The ulama, they would say that the conditions for the Hajj for a person, one is Hajj is obligatory for a person, is to have zad wal rahila, is the provisions to go back and forth, and the means for provisions to go.
And the health means also.
And the health means, and all kinds of means, right? And when they talk about women, and a mahram for women. So this is an extra condition that if a mahram is there and she has the means, and all that is there, that means it's an obligatory thing.
So a sister should not feel bad if she has the financial means, if she has the health means, but she doesn't have a mahram.
Right.
So she would fall under a category that she doesn't have the means.
Right. It's like a person he doesn't have the means, he doesn't have the money to go to Hajj.
Exactly.
Would that person say, can I steal, for example?
No.
Or can I even take loans for it? Although it's permissible to take a loan, but why a person should do that? It's not an obligation on the person in that case.
Okay, let's go back to the sister and talk about her case more specifically. Let's just say, for example, that she lives in Jeddah, which as we know is not too far away from Mecca. Would it be okay for her to make Hajj?
Well, if it's not traveling and the whole situation is safe. Right?
When you say it's not traveling, meaning she's not staying over, like she can come back that same night to her original home?
Right.
That's what you mean?
Right.
Okay.
With the distance that is at the time of the Prophet ﷺ is a distance of traveling 1 day and 1 night, which is basically something around 80 kilometers or something like that.
80 miles or 80 kilometers?
80 kilometers.
80 kilometers,
right.
okay.
40 something miles.
Okay.
Right. So if that's the case and it's safe companionship and so on, that's fine. But if it's a traveling distance, then it's not permissible.
Subhanallah, a lot of the issues that sisters deal with, they feel that it's exclusive to them. But subhanAllah, when sisters watch a program like this, then they know that their issues are being shared by many other sisters in the world, alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. So that's why I think, alhamdulillah, this program is of benefit to a lot of sisters. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless you for that, because alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
And there's a very important point, as you mentioned now. Usually when we are faced with some form of a trial or an issue, we think, as you said, that this is only us.
It's only me.
Right. So when we realize that there's nobody is exempt of this, but tests are different. Some people are tested with loss of life, loss of legs, health, wealth, and some people are afflicted with other things. And afflictions is not just by calamities, it can be with wealth and health.
Yes.
This is another test. Because life has no meaning to it unless a person is obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It will end, it will finish. And what really matters is what comes ahead.
SubhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَا يُكَلِّفُ اللَّهُ نَفْسًا إِلَّا وُسْعَهَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not burden a soul over its capacity. So we have to know that whatever situation that we're going through, it's because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that we can go through it. He knows that He gave us this trial because He knows that we can overcome
and then
it.
sometimes you would see a case where a person would say, how can a person be patient in that situation? And you would say, if it happened to me, I'm not sure if I would be patient. But the ends or the outcome of things is not in our capacity, as it's been mentioned. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala afflicts someone with something, He would give him or her the means to be patient if they would turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone.
A lot of sisters wonder how they can improve their relationship with the Quran after the month of Ramadan. How can they maintain this relationship? Maybe they've finished reading the Quran once or twice during the month of Ramadan. Give them a recipe of how they should deal with the Quran for the entire year.
Be sincere and turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone to make it easy for you to be steadfast and always benefiting from the Quran, and then taking the physical means and having a wird or a fixed portion of the Quran that we recite every day, even if it's something little. Make sure that if in your locality or whatever there's a circle of Quran, attend it. You learn how to recite the Quran. And sisters are, mashallah, in many cases are much better than the brothers in this. You would find even the masajid.
I agree with you.
Right. The time when there's halaqah of Quran, many sisters, mashallah. Sometimes we even, the masjid is closed for the sisters only in the morning.
MashaAllah, because it's so full.
Right, so full.
MashaAllah.
And mashallah, they have great examples in which they would come once a week, but throughout the whole week, every day she's doing her portion and she's memorizing, and every day 1 page or 2 pages or whatever. So we even find that in the West when people come, sometimes this is Islam at the weekends, right? And the weekend schools, where the children, they come in the weekends and then the rest of the week, they have nothing to do with the deen or learning the deen. This is a problem. We need to have, yes, if the only time feasible for them to go is 1 day a week or 2 days a week, but what are they doing throughout the week? So go for a circle of knowledge 1 day a week, but then the person in charge of the circle, give them a homework, do something, and people need to do something that every day there's a portion of the Quran is being recited. And the same thing for families where they send their children 1 day a week. What are they doing throughout the rest of the week? Give them some homework, some work, very little every day, something, till it becomes in the system, in the habit of the person. If you leave it 1 day, you would feel that so much pain. How can I do that? So it's always a period of time. Once a person is steadfast doing this every day, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, after that you would never leave it by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
A sister is asking about getting married to her cousin. She's asking if that is permissible, knowing that it could cause, because some genetic factors that can cause some harms to her children.
I personally have a very strong opinion against that.
You have an opinion against marrying their cousins?
No, against saying that it always causes some problems. First of all, it's permissible, right? And there's no specific hadith or any evidence, as far as I know, that makes it disliked or not permissible or whatever there is. So this is a fact. And that's why cousins in Islam, when they grow up, they're full hijab and things like this. The issue of genetic factors and things like that, it is not true in many cases. Yes, it might happen, but you would see at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, Ali radiallahu anhu, he married Fatima.
They had beautiful children.
Right. And it happens throughout the Muslim world, and I've never seen any of these defects anywhere, right? But what needs to be concerned is, if there's dispute happens between the husband and the wife, this can cause severing the relationship of the whole family. This is where the danger is. So when someone advise, not to get married to the cousins, is because of that. Usually sometimes things happens between the husband and the wife.
Well, people do it with a different cause. They do it with the intention of bringing the families together.
Right, mashallah, and this is good. But as far as to make it difficult, for example, if the cousins, they want to get married, let the things be smooth and easy.
Do you advise them to do medical tests?
Sure, this is something that part of the means to be taken anywhere, especially, things changes throughout time. And if people are in need of that because of the too many different diseases and so on, no harm whatsoever.
I'm talking specifically about genetic tests.
No problem. If there's nothing harm for a person to take tests and so on. But again, to make it difficult and to make it very strict, no, the point is we need to take it easy and to make it smooth. If it happens, it happens. If it didn't happen, but it's not which people would say that it's not permissible or it's something that is highly disliked and so on.
Is there a recommended age in Islam like a difference in age between the man and the wife? Should the man always be older than the woman? Obviously, we're not saying an issue of halal and haram, because it wouldn't be haram if a younger man marries an older woman. But kind of a recommendations. Is there kind of a recommendation for the age of the man compared to the age of the woman?
Well, it depends on the state of iman of the person and how the deen is controlling the life of the people. And we have to consider our weaknesses. Normally, yes, women, they progress in age faster than men. So if a person, for example, get married to someone that is older than him, this can cause trouble, right? If people even, sometimes their iman goes down, and a person needs to be satisfied physically and so on. So if it's an important thing to someone, then he should consider that it's not something wrong to consider such a thing. But if it's not important to some people, MashaAllah, the Prophet ﷺ married Khadija radiallahu anha. She's far older than him. So it's not a rule, but in general, yes, it's recommended that the man is older than the woman because of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us physically. You know, women, when they reach certain age of menopause and things like this, it's far early than the men. So especially environments where men are only married only one wife and things like this, they need to consider that for their future.
For men who are students of Islamic knowledge, they usually have a sheikh. For women, how do they go about it? Can they also have a sheikh? Let's you say my sheikh is this person. I mean, I want you to tell me this answer in two parts. First of all, does a student of knowledge have to have a sheikh? Meaning, not only a person that he learns from, but a person who basically he takes permission from before he does things. For example, like if a person wants to do some sort of dawah activity or to travel to such and such country, is it required in Islam for him to have a sheikh so that he has to ask that person or get permission from one or more than one sheikh in order to do that act? Or is it basically he's asking an opinion, is kind of an istishara of that person? That's one thing. And then the second part is for sisters. What do they do in that case? Because I've heard of scholars who say that if as a student of knowledge you don't have a sheikh, then you're basically like sorry for the expression, but you're basically like a child born out of wedlock. Your thoughts about that?
Definitely, the ilm or the knowledge, it's not something that people would get it out of nowhere. The way things are, it's from one generation to the other. It's a lineage, and it's the best lineage whatsoever. It's the lineage of the people of knowledge. It's from the Sahaba radiallahu anhum to the next generation, and the teacher teaches the students, and the students grow knowledge, and they become teachers, and this is how the knowledge is.
And it starts with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Right, and that's why it's a lineage that ends by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Yes.
Once there is a problem or severing this lineage, in many cases it's a problem. So definitely a person has to have a person not just learning matters of knowledge, but manners, and because they learned how to act according to the way the Prophet ﷺ and so on. But a person in an environment where there's not too much means of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful. And whatever means is available for the person, if he's sincere, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless it for him. The issue of permission, it's definitely important, because sometimes a person might be deceived when it comes to his own way of seeking knowledge. It doesn't have to be someone that he's living with and seeing every day, but asking the people of knowledge. But again, if a person is in an environment where he's the only one that knows that this is wrong and he's not saying anything about it, teaching the people, whatever he knows of knowledge, this is definitely something that is important. The sad part is, how come there's not too many sheikhs, right?
Yes.
Female people of knowledge, the same way that we find men. It didn't used to be like that in the time of the early generations of Islam. Saying even recently, for example, my personal ijaza of Quran is from a sheikha, from a female scholar in this. And this is with the proper, things behind hijab and things like this.
Yes.
But we need to do something so that women are seeking knowledge within the proper environment, and if it's not, then they also attend the durus of the shuyukh, and they learn from them, and there is colleges, for example, for women and things like this. But it's definitely something that needs to be taken in consideration, for women to study the deen seriously, and to educate others, and to give the knowledge to other women and so on.
Jazakallah khair. Any final thoughts for our sisters? I think we're coming close to the end of the program. General advice for them till we meet them next week, inshallah.
May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy. The month of Shawwal, it's the beginning of the months of Al-Hajj. So it's one season after the other. And in the month of Shawwal, the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith, whoever fasts the month of Ramadan and follows it by 6 days of Shawwal, as if he fasted the whole year. Fasting the 6 days of Shawwal is a good opportunity that we basically, as if we're saying to ourselves that we're not bored when it comes to matters of worship. We would still continue on the same path. But it's not 30 days, it's 6 days.
A very important question when it comes to that, the actual way that we should fast, especially for sisters. A lot of sisters had days in the month of Ramadan to make up. What takes more priority, and how can they balance between the two? Fasting the missed days, and at the same time fasting the 6 days of Shawwal?
If the missed days would not take more than 24 days of the month, then they should do the missed days first and then the 6 days of Shawwal. If the missed days are more, and that means they won't be able to do the 6 days of Shawwal, there's differences of opinion. Allahu A'lam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. It's okay to do the 6 days of Shawwal, since they have the time till the next Ramadan to make up the days. So they can do the 6 days of Shawwal, Wallahu A'lam, and then they can make up the days afterwards.
Wasn't it that Aisha radiallahu anha always used to fast her missed days right before Ramadan, the month of Sha'ban? So how can we, so did she used to fast the days of Shawwal and then delay her missed days?
This is one of the things where the people of knowledge, those who said to fast the 6 days first, they take this as an evidence that if she would delay making up the days of the obligatory fast just before the month of Ramadan, she probably maybe fasted before.
Yes.
So it's okay to do an optional act of worship before making up the obligation. There's no harm, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Barakallahu feek. My dear sisters, I hope this afternoon's episode was of benefit. Jazakumullahu khairan. Hope to see you next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Dear sisters, let us get closer to Allah. Dear sisters, let us learn of Rasulullah. Dear sisters, let's make the future bright. Dear sisters, mothers, daughters and wives. Dear sisters, let us get closer to Allah. Dear sisters, let us learn of Rasulullah. Dear sisters, let's make the future bright. Dear sisters, mothers, daughters and wives. Dear sisters, let us get closer to Allah. Dear sisters, let us learn of Rasulullah. Dear sisters, let's make the future bright. Dear sisters,